Because I cover advertising, and I worked in advertising so long, I don't just cover it, it was my life for such a long time, digital media. Talk to me about...
I think we first met when you were doing the exchange.
We did.
At Razorfish,
Oh
right?
God, good memory. That's why I visited the lab. I was just a lowly little agency trading desk girl at the time, trying to change the future of display advertising. And at the time, you were very interested, I think, but you're trying to figure out what it all meant for you guys.
Still are.
Well, hey, I mean, I'm sure. So let's talk about that. I mean, you know, there's so much data that can be used now for things like targeting in advertising, insight generation in advertising, pricing of inventory in advertising.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you guys thinking about user data, campaign data, you know, for the purposes of advertising?
Right. Well, let me say that one of the things about nytimes.com from the beginning was that it required registration.
Yeah.
So, you know, our original, the original head of New York Times Digital, Martin Nisenholtz, came out of Ogilvy. He was an advertising person and understood that somehow part of the promise of this medium was always going to be targeting based upon data. And so since pretty much the beginning of time, we've been able to target using first-party data from our registered users, you know, along all the dimensions that have been used for targeting forever. You know, zip, age, gender, and to my knowledge, still the variables that matter the most often in targeting, even today. Beyond that, we've embraced sort of the first generation of behavioral targeting. We're early adopters of things like, you know, segmenting your audience based upon interests as inferred by where they visited on the site. You know, I think we all know that while those techniques were somewhat useful and delivered a little bit more value than just sort of a willy-nilly buy impressions writ large, you know, they didn't exactly like set the world on fire and move move the revenue needle or the performance needle, you know, dramatically.
I do have a question though that I just thought of. In a world where marketers have DMPs, big marketers like P&G, you know, are creating these infrastructures around audience. Do you see a role for the Times to create strategic partnerships with marketers based on not just inventory but on data?
Yeah, so that's a possibility. I mean, I think where we are with that kind of exchange-traded, first-party, data-enriched buying is we're cautiously leaning into it a little bit. I mean, what Peter Naylor said was very much the point of view of us and other sort of premium publishers, which is the genie is somewhat out of the bottle. I mean, we know that agencies want to buy this way. We know that it's much more efficient to have the machines do a lot of the work, to take a lot of the friction out of the system. But what we want to do is be very cautious, be very discriminating, and find ways that we can work together with marketers to add additional value, to create more premium out of our premium, and not to kind of commodify all of our impressions and put them into a great pool where the context and the quality really doesn't matter.
You know, it's funny because I think we swung so far toward audience as the thing that mattered and everybody was excited about. But for me, what it was always about was intelligence. You know what I mean? So the more that you knew about an impression, the better you could value it. And context, and not just context as contextual category, but the environment, I think is an incredibly important parameter.
Right.
I like this idea that marketers can make more intelligent decisions using all that data, just like publishers can.
Right.
You know, so you can say, no, I'm not going to sell that for $3 because I know, you know, from this analysis that I've done that it's easily worth $7.25, whatever. In your case, $25, $50, whatever. $75,000. So one last really quick question before I let you go. I know we're running out of time. Talk about ad products. What kind of cool stuff are you doing?
So this last year, for the first time in the history of the R&D lab, we set up another group called New Ventures, which was designed to commercialize some of the inventions we were doing. And one of them is built upon big data, really. So we've been tracking the mentions of the Times content in Twitter for a really long time. And we've been able to visualize how our content spreads through Twitter. And we've been able to look at different types of content and different people who spread the content and begin to model out which content is going to start trending and what we might expect to see from different stories, provided they're shared in certain ways by certain people, right?
Cool.
So I've always loved Twitter because I think Twitter is a network, a human network that can take on the characteristics of media. So I can look at the way a story spreads, and then I can look at everybody who touched that story in Twitter, and I can back into the demos of that network. I could say, look, this network that spread that story had these demos. If I could activate that network again with a different story, then I'd be able to predict its reach and its frequency and its demographics, right? So we've developed this tool, and the tool lets us see what stories are trending. And now we've created an API that lets our ad server talk to this tool, and we've created an ad product called Sparking Stories, where an advertiser can come in and buy a package of stories that are trending right now on the Times, irrespective of section or context or topic, but just the stories that are really breaking through right now in social media.